147,000 jobs in the month of June. Economists had expected about 110,000 new jobs. The unemployment rate saw a decrease to 4.1%. Joining us now, the co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box and a New York Times columnist, our good friend Andrew Ross Sorkin. Andrew, good morning. Good to see you. So a pretty solid number here.
Pretty solid number. I think, as you said, better than expected. I think better than most folks in the market had expected. But it creates a very interesting conversation about what President Trump, for example, would ultimately say right now to a Jay Powell, who, of course, runs the Federal Reserve. Just overnight, if you saw, you had the president saying that Jay Powell should be resigning from his role because he should be lowering interest rates. This morning, I think this jobs number would give Jay Powell the upper hand to say, look, the reason I'm not lowering interest rates is the economy actually continues to be quite good, which is something you'd think that the president would enjoy and like. So some kind of interesting cross currents to think about. But nonetheless, I think the chance right now of interest rates going lower anytime soon taken off the table a bit this morning as a function of these jobs numbers.
Yeah, we're waiting to see a response from President Trump. Nothing yet. I'm sure he will be touting this jobs report. Andrew, a couple hours ago on the show, we were talking to Jared Bernstein, who was the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors under President Biden, about some of these trade deals that are going on. The one with Vietnam, namely, that President Trump announced, but we haven't really seen confirmation officially from either of the countries on that. A huge exporter to us is Vietnam, almost $140 billion last year. How big a deal is that, and what do markets see in that as kind of the rationale for Trump's tariffs, which is I'm going to jack up tariffs, bring people to the negotiating table, and then strike deals with them?
You know, I think that right now, just given where we were even a couple of months ago, the market is trying to bake in that there are going to be these tariff deals. I think the Vietnam deal that we've seen, or at least the outlines that we've seen, may be instructive in terms of what we may see from India and some of the other countries. Interestingly, when you look at the Vietnam deal, you can see that some of those rates are a little bit higher than some had expected, in part because the administration is trying to prevent other countries like China and others from effectively sending their stuff through countries like Vietnam. The big winners in all of this, by the way, likely going to be Canada and Mexico, because a lot of the business that had gone through and manufacturing that had gone through places like Vietnam, it's unclear whether it'll all come to the U.S., but it may get closer to the U.S., which to some degree could be a win at some level when you think about resiliency and the like. But most business leaders, I think, right now are focused mostly on what happens to China. What's the China deal really look like? Are we talking about a 30% tariff? Are you talking about a 20% tariff? Because the delta, even between 20 and 30%, is huge, given the volume of activity coming into the U.S. But that's what I keep hearing from CEOs. China, 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 what's it going to look like? And I still think we're going to be on that score probably many months away.
And Andrew, as you speak, we're watching on the lower part of our screen the sort of the precursor to a vote that is coming. Widely expected that Republicans have the vote to get this big package through, which includes $3.3 trillion worth of debt over the next decade, but also includes corporate tax breaks for the wealthy. So it looks like futures are up. Is it fair to say the markets like this for now anyway?
You know, the biggest surprise here is actually what the bond market's doing. You know, we've talked a lot over the past couple of months about the potential for the bond market to say, we don't like this. If you're going to be adding debt and deficits to the market, to our balance sheet, that's not a good thing. The bond market has not reacted as negatively as some people had anticipated. And I think there's some questions about why that is the case. Part of it may be that they actually think underneath underneath our economy right now, things might marginally be weaker. The other thing, which is interesting, goes back to the Jay Powell piece of it, is Jay Powell is not going to be in this job come next May, no matter what. And so there's a question mark now about whether the market's already looking a year ahead, saying whoever's in that role, they will be lowering interest rates. So it's unclear how you can look at the market and say, is that market reacting to the bill and the deficit, or is the market reacting to these other forces? And I think it's still a jump ball.